हेलो। चलो बाकी बाकी कुछ काम है ही नहीं। मैं आ रहा हूँ जी 10 मिनट 10 बजे के बाद। हेलो। Good morning to you all. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
What were we discussing in the last class?
Yeah, sure, you are audible.
Good. What were we discussing in the last class? Can you please? Have we completed SWOT analysis? We have also done 5C analysis of marketing, right?
Yes, sir.
We did
was
Kano
talking-
analysis also. Kano.
Pardon me? Can you repeat?
We were discussing Kano model.
Kano model, okay. Yeah. I have a few examples this time. Actually, we have been spending a lot of time on this. As part of the 5Cs, the company, collaborators, climate, customers, and competitors, these are all interlinked tools that we make use of for making an analysis, making decisions that are very essential for.
Go deep, but go deep, we go deep.
Yaneshwar, can you mute your mic?
Anggur ciku. Ini kamu penuh.
Am I audible? I tried to mute all because there's some noise getting generated. Okay? You can unmute yourself, and if you have something, you can raise an issue. Basically, SWOT analysis is the initial stage of preparing ourselves to decide whether to go or no go sort of a situation, which also includes an overall analysis of risk as well as the opportunities that are available for the organization or for the individual. Very similar to this 5C analysis is something called the PESTLE analysis, also known as PEST analysis. This is the expansion of this would be something like political factors, economic factors, social factors, technological factors, legal factors, and environmental factors. So this is basically made use of to understand the situation around us, the environment, the challenges that are posed, to make this strategic planning for the organization, for the marketing, and for all such decisions that we are likely to come up with respect to management. In this particular aspect of PESTLE analysis, the matters, most of the things, political, as you probably understand, lot depends on the political conditions of a state or a nation, and the laws and the regulations that are brought in, and the framework that has been created for the procedures to be followed by various organizations. All these have a say on the functioning and the effectiveness of business for the organizations that are established. Similarly, with respect to the taxation and so on, the labor laws all have implications on the functioning of the industry or the business. Economic factors are such like the general growth rate with respect to the growth rate of an area, the GDP usually is the yardstick for the measurement of the growth of a nation. And similarly, the industry uh, productivity is also another sort of a thing we make use of. Similarly, there are several such sort of measures that help us to understand the growth of each of the sectors of industry as well. And along with this, there are also matters like inflation, unemployment or employment that's happening. And all these have influence on the purchasing capacity, the buyer behavior, the consumer behavior, and the market tendencies that go on. So all these influence the success or the failure or the profit or loss of organizations and their activities. Similarly, technological and innovational matters also, as we see in the recent past for the last few years, probably for a decade now, innovations have been going on in industry, in all sectors of industry at a higher pace. And unless we are prepared with our own R&D, our own development, our own uniqueness with respect to the services or products that we offer, we are probably lost in the competition. So not only in the competition, with respect to the needs and requirements, satisfying the needs and requirements of the customers as well. So in that particular context, the technical aspects, how well we are able to do it, what are all the developments that are taking place, not only with respect to our interests, but also with respect to the competition, the competitors' strategies, how they are, what sort of trends they trying to lead, and so on. And whether we are able to communicate such sort of things as USP, unique selling propositions to the customers. We should be able to communicate all this. In addition to this, the cultural, social sort of factors naturally have a greater value. And this is much more specific with respect to the consumer behavior. So, the income, the family size, the age of the customer, the segments that we are trying to address, and the segments that are interested in the products that we are associated with, so on and so forth, and the marketings, the changes in the segments that are taking place, and the influence of other factors. Similarly, when we talk about the pest analysis, the extension of this is the pest league, where legal and the environmental aspects also come in. Political and legal they are intertwined. Many of the political decisions that are made by organizations or governments are with respect to the procedures to be followed. Naturally, they lay certain framework for the organizations to perform. So they are bound by certain rules and regulations that are created by the policy and the acts that are created by the governments. Therefore, political and legal aspects go in together, but they have. Environmental aspects are not probably so much relevant to most of the organizations, but many of the organizations are influenced, particularly when we talk about the wholesome or the total quality marketing orientation, where there is also concern for the society. The environmental aspects have also taken a greater interest there. For example, specific industries like industries which are dependent on agriculture, the weather, the climate, and so on, they are dependent. The forecast of the harvest can only be made based on the monsoon, the seasons, the seasonal changes that are taking place, the natural disasters or natural things that happen. So it depends on the rains, this type of sunshine that you get, and the seasonal followings, the timing of each of these. So many a times these days, farmers seem to be complaining of unseasonal rains where all their harvest is lost when they are about to take the benefit of their hard work. So situations of this, they are all leading to risk. So how do we protect ourselves? So the trends in all this and the analysis would also help us to strategize our own plans of being, operational. And not only this, it also gives us an analysis of the investment requirements with respect to technology, the pace at which it should happen, and the type of communication that we should carry with the society, with the people who are more important for us, and so on and so forth. So, in that sense, personal analysis is one such important. These are the uses of this. When you are launching a new product, you would like to know what is all around and where are we finally, in what context are we likely to operate. Similarly, when we are trying to get into a newer area, spreading our own operations, naturally we have to understand the positives and negatives that affects our performance in that particular region. Adapt ourselves to this, considering a new strategy of entering the market or facing the challenges of the market. And similarly, coming up with newer innovations and newer products, all these things would also be required. This, as I was trying to tell you, the pestle analysis would naturally be helping the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats sort of a thing. Most probably, the pestle analysis gives us a view of the opportunities and threats. Okay, so it makes us aware of the weaknesses that we are likely to have within our organization. So when we are doing the SWOT analysis, 5C analysis is an overall analysis too. In that, pestle analysis addresses the last component of 5C, that is climate or the city. What did we say that? 5C, what did we say the last one? Hello?
Competitors, sir.
Not competitors. We had the company, we have the competitors, we have the collaborators. Then,
Climate, customers.
no, the 5Cs. We talked about 5Cs, right? Just a moment. Customers, competitors, collaborators is the climate. Okay. So finally, it gives us, Pestle gives us a better view of what a detailed estimate of the climate that we are trying to work in. So in that particular context, it's an analysis, it's a strategic management tool which helps us analyze, organize, also monitor certain factors which may impact an organization, not only in the present but also in the future. And it is a tool like the SWOT analysis which helps us, as I was mentioning. It gives us a great input for the organizational change, planning, or marketing, the business and the product development, project management, so on. And some of the examples of political interventions could be the government policy, political stability. Say, for example, a state government. Suddenly, the most uncertain period for business and industry is the election period. Because every political party in our country has its own manifesto and it promises certain things to be highlighted or that it would like to immediately implement. So some may be in favor of the organizations that are functioning, and some may be against the business interests of certain organizations. In that particular context, we find at times that soon after the elections, the interest or the newer activities of particular organizations are shifted to newer locations, to the neighboring states or neighboring countries, and so on. So such things happen. They also bring in certain pressure with respect to the talent. The tax is another thing. For example, after the GST has been introduced, there was an increase in the prices of things and it has led to inflation. But it is considered to be one such sort of a tool which could distribute the finances based on the developments that are taking place in each of the states independently. Okay. So, in that particular sense, some governments provide subsidies, encouragements, incentives for newer initiatives being taken by the enterprise, such sort of things also. So, what government policies or political groups could be beneficial or detrimental to our success is what we are trying to understand. Is the political environment stable or likely to change? In the economic context, as I was mentioning, the trends in the economic growth or the industrial growth, the seasonal factors, inflation, interest rates, RBI makes and changes in the interest rates. It decides the fiscal policy as well. And the Minimum Wages Act, labor costs, all these things are decided in this context. They all, the availability of skills, the unemployment rates, availability of credit, so on. So these are the. So what are the factors that will impact on us when we are trying to improve our business? And would it help us? And how does it affect us? And how does each of the economic factors impact our prices, revenues, and costs? Is what the organization is interested. With respect to the social aspects, as I was trying to mention, it is mostly the demographic factors which are very important for the business marketing context. The social aspects, attitudes, trends, all influence, like the amount of spend, the type of purchases made, and in what sizes particular products are bought, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the trends that we wish to understand with respect to the buying habits and the consumer behavior. And the technology, as I was mentioning, the R&D that is happening, the intellectual property rights that have been created, and the type of uniqueness that we could create with respect to the offerings that we make, with respect to the services or the products that we have come up with. That gives us a leading edge over the competition. So, what innovations and technological advancements are available in this particular domain, and how might they affect us, and what we might bring in to overcome this? Similarly, legal, laws regarding consumer protection, labor, health, safety, intellectual property, all these things are part of legal domains in which we have to operate. Every business is expected to operate in a legal, ethical manner of business. So in that particular, so what are the laws that apply to us? So, and would they help us or be a stumbling block in any context? Would it increase the competition from the other sectors of industry like the small scale or the large scale? Would it encourage some particular sectors? Sort of. We have to understand that. So the environment, as I was mentioning, it is generally the pollution and the effect on the various activities. So these are some of the how it affect the climatic conditions affect the products, services that we offer, and the locations, geographical locations. So the type of supply chain that we are likely to bring in because of this. And sustainable corporate relationship is something that is coming up these days. Say, for example, there is a cement factory in a particular locality, and the neighboring surroundings or village communes are all probably polluted with dust, cement dust that is generated. So, organizations of this nature have to come up with some pollution control, like bag filters, electrostatic precipitators, and so on and so forth. Not only that, but they are also expected to provide some such sort of health measures for those, silicosis sort of, who suffer the disease of silicosis, the breathing, asthmatic problems, and so on. So, health and other initiatives are taken by the industry. Having said this, let us try to consider one such example of vessel analysis that we have done. This is about the sharing of taxi service. One of those leading taxi services today is Uber. And as we try to understand this particular model of Uber, I have taken this example from the net. There are several such sort of exercises and examples on the net which help us understand the various tools that we are trying to make use of. So, political factor is it needs to make it stand clear about drivers' insurance. There was a criticism on Uber that in case, because of the type of arrangement that it has with the taxi operators, if there is an accident that is taking place, would the taxi driver be insured? Would the persons traveling by the taxi be assured of this? Is a question. So, in that particular context, that had always been a political and a legal issue for the organization. They have to also implement the minimum wages because of the type of arrangement that Uber has with the taxi operators. Whether there is a minimum wage rule applicable to this aspect is also a question that is being done. They have to deal with, many of the countries, they think that because of such sort of activity of Uber and other sort of taxi services, the normal taxi services are seen to have been affected. So, in that context, this sort of activity seem to be monopolizing on this activity. So, some of the nations have even taken a stand of banning such activities. So, it's a sort of a factor that needs to be considered. It is not universally accepted. In addition to this, on the economic front, it is considered to be very easily accessible. They have come up with a technological app which can provide you different various information about the services that are available and the number of taxis that are in the area that you are in, and so on and so forth. And because of the sharing and other facilities, it also seems to be affordable. Not only affordable, this has also been creating several job avenues for those taxi operators. If you have been seeing, when I first came to Warangal, long time back, the auto rickshaws at the railway station never used to move out unless they got what amount they demanded. Later came the concept of sharing. Therefore, and the taxi driver was staying there almost all the day, finally kept getting 1 or 2 trips in a day. But today, as you see, they are able to make several trips going on a small innovation of allowing people on sharing basis because they are traveling in the same direction. That's sort of a thing here. So it has become more affordable. People are more ready to pay for this, and it is also convincing. Social factors, Uber, the drivers and the operators seem to be very user friendly, and Uber has an advantage of even being able to pick up a person in a remote place where other taxis do not operate. In that particular sense, it is also considered, though at times we have experiences of unsafe situations, but it is considered to be, accessible even in remote areas. And it gives a better ride experience than the normal taxis. The trouble that you take after you get down, the challenges that you face with respect to the negotiation for the charges that need to be paid. The technical factors, like as I mentioned, they have come up with a wonderful app where it is easy to be used on your mobile phone. and on the run. And they also have been using the social media, and the promotion was taking place mostly on the social media, and that's how the publicity and promotion has come in. And in fact, if you introduce somebody, you get some cashback or incentives. And similarly, when you introduce a new customer, similar sort of feats have been made possible early. And legal factor need to prevent ban on many countries, as we discussed before, and need to follow labor and employee safety laws, insurance, as well as minimum wages act and so on. And there's also copyright laws to be looked into with respect to the tools that they have been using. And factors environmentally, it is expected that this might increase flying of more number of vehicles on the roads. So fuel usage is expected to increase, and traffic congestion is also expected to increase. And these are the factors of concern. Similarly, there is another example of one of the famous electronics company, Apple. Political factors. Apple operates many places, including China, and political rift between US and China because major manufacturing facilities have been located in China, and any political rift between US and China is likely to affect operations in China. Recently, Apple has decided to move some of its operations away, and probably India is a gainer in that particular context. Operating in any other country may be expensive because in China the labor cost was low. So that was the main reason why most of the organizations have first moved into China. Economic fact: manufacturing costs will increase in China if China increases labor costs, and decline in the middle class income may decrease Apple's market. Apple focuses not only on the high income group, but also a large majority of its market is based on the middle class. So any changes in the income levels or the price hikes are also likely to affect this particular segment of people. And the social factors, it is not that successful, I believe, in Africa, in parts of Africa. And even in US, I believe some segments of people are not very happy. There's a lot of prejudice on this because it is considered to be expensive and not affordable to all. And as far as technical factor is concerned, we all understand that people like Apple products for the type of quality that they create, and also for the sort of encryption that they have been providing for long. And with this, there is also a demand in general increasing. We find that there are several new companies, new organizations, new products, and operating mostly with the Chinese sort of collaboration coming in. So all these are having similar sort of products that Apple makes, and many of them have been trying to imitate what Apple has done. It is probably uh, overriding the Copyrights Act or their own patents, but some of them have been violating some of these and getting into the sort of facilities that Apple has created uniquely. Apple device may seem less secure in that sense. So legal factors, Apple may start, Apple has been considering automobile manufacture, and with this, its overheads are likely to increase. And along with this, the insurances and other things are also likely to hike up, and it might influence the other products that the Apple Incorporated will be dealing with. And the environmental factors, as we all know, most of the electronic companies have been facing with the waste disposal, particularly the batteries and the electronic items. Disposal is a major environmental issue, electronic items. So that's a major factor. So this is how the analysis is done, what are all the concerns, for a different organization. This would help us in getting it. In addition to this, I wish to come up with one other tool called the Porter's. Michael Porter has come up with something called a five forces uh, theory. This is another tool which gives us to understand the intensity of competition that exists. For example, in the 5 Cs, we were also talking about not only collaborators but competitors. So we wish to understand probably Porter's five forces gives much more emphasis on the type of competition that exists within the industry, in the interest. So the five components of this particular tool happens to be a competitive rivalry, threat of substitutes, threat of new entrants, buyer's power, and supplier's power. In this, Porter's five forces help in accessing, basically, helps in accessing the or understanding where the power lies within the industry and the business situation. In that particular context, Porter's model is actually a strategy tool. It is not only a strategy tool, it is a planning tool set. In the sense, you can take advantage of the strengths and can prove or improve upon the weaknesses that we have, making use of this particular tool set. This can help us in that context. And in this, it reflects on all the five forces that is expected to shape the business and determine the strengths and weaknesses in analyzing the competition and the industrial structure that exists. And when we are talking about the threat of, when we are trying to understand the industry, competitive rivalry. The industry rivalry or the competitive rivalry, it means the competition that is existing and in the market, and it depends on a number of factors. Usually, the rivalry or the competition is very high when there are a number of small or equal number of competitors, but less when there is a clear market leader. When there is no market leader, the competition is expected to be even higher. And customers, if the customers incur low switching costs when they switch from one brand to the other, from one seller to the other, then also the competition is likely to be high. When the industry is growing, naturally, the competition will also grow. People will. And if there are no exit barriers, that means to say, if you can freely exit from a particular industry without any burden on this, then probably it will also be high. And but if there are barriers, the rivals are all expected to stay back in the business and they have to strive to compete. So the competition is likely to build up in that context. And when the fixed costs are naturally high, then it all depends on huge production. If the fixed costs are high, naturally people go for mass production and they also try to cut costs and prices. So therefore, competition is very stringent when the situations are of this nature. And in this sort of a situation, naturally, we come across price wars, advertisement wars, and a lot of versions of new products coming in. And all these ultimately increase the costs as well as competition. This is how the competitors' rivalry can be understood. When we are trying to understand the buyer's power, bargaining power of the buyer has to be understood with respect to if there are few buyers, naturally they are chasing too many goods. So in that particular context, few buyers, when they are chasing too many goods, then naturally we have to be cautious about it. Buyers, when they are purchasing in bulk quantities, naturally he has a influence. Okay, he has an influence on the seller. And the product, when we are not able to come out with any unique nature of our product, that means we are not able to differentiate our product from that of competition, naturally the buyer will have more say on the market conditions. And the cost of switching, when the cost of switching is low, naturally the buyer is free to move from one brand to the other. And similar things like if the buyers are price sensitive, then the price, and if they are, shipping of the items, if they are far off and if it is going to cost them, then naturally they would prefer something which is readily accessible. And wherever such sort of factors are there, naturally bargaining power of the buyers would be higher. And it may probably be lowered by offering differentiated products. So that is the need for us to come up with uniqueness in our own products and services different from what our competitors offer. If we are serving only a few of our customers, but with huge quantity, order buying, who buy in larger quantities, then naturally they have the power to dictate price. So we got to be careful about this. Similarly, the power of the supplier. The bargaining power of the suppliers would naturally mean if the suppliers are strong, then there is a difficulty of operation for the industry. How much our suppliers have control over increasing the prices of the materials that we make use of. They decide our operational costs, our overheads, and so on. So they become powerful in that particular context. So suppliers, if they are concentrated and well organized, then they have more power. And if there are not many substitutes for the type of materials that we make use of, that are, if the substitutes are not available, then these are again, suppliers are more powerful. If the product that the suppliers sell is more unique and also effective, then they have more power to dictate. And if the switching cost is also high, then again, the suppliers, we cannot easily shift from Windows to that of Linux or something else operating system. The switching cost is quite low. Okay, so in that particular, you are not an important. If you are buying only a small quantity, the supplier may prefer such sort of suppliers who procure items in larger quantities. So, in that sense, if we are not an important customer, the supplier again has a higher problem. Okay. వెంకట్ నమస్తే అమ్మా, నేను క్లాస్లో ఉన్నాను, నేను మళ్ళీ మాట్లాడతాను, నేను ఫోన్ చేస్తాను. So this is the bargaining power or the power of the supplier. Now we want to see the threat of new entrants. What happens with the threat of new entrants? A new entrant is definitely a new competitor coming into the market. It will naturally weaken the position of existing businesses. The threat of new entry naturally depend on the entry barriers or exit barriers that exist. So, what are entry barriers? Entry barriers are those, you are supposed to have a license to enter into a particular business. So, only a few are permitted to enter into this. Or if it is going to involve huge capital investment, that is an entry barrier by itself. Not all can get into something like, airways, operating flights in the airways sort of system. So there are some such factors of entry barriers similar to that of exit barriers that we have been discussing. Capital requirements to start the business or to improve upon business. Government policies can also dictate, like licensing, as I was mentioning, and economies of scale. If you cannot, if you have to have larger economies of scale and distribution networks, then probably small operators cannot work in this. Therefore, there is no threat of such new entrants. And wherever customers can easily switch over, where there is low switching cost, then the new entrants are probably likely to enter into such businesses. And your key technology, the technology that we are trying to operate in, is not very hard and to acquire or to develop, then also the new entrants are likely to come in. If our technology is not protected by intellectual property rights, then also people would copy and enter into the same business that we have come in. So what we have come up with, entered a business with uniqueness, would no more be unique in that context. Your product would therefore not be differentiated. They would be copy products entering into the business. So such sort of, there's a variation in attractiveness of the segments based on the barriers that we have created or that exist, and the segment would become more attractive, which has some provision of protection, right? So the last item that we are likely to come up with is the threat of substitute products. We do understand by the title itself, it means how easily our customers can switch on with our competitors' products, something that can replace or substitute our own product. If there are many substitute products available, naturally, the threat is high from the substitution. And if the customers can easily find a product or a service that we are offering at the same or even lesser price, then there is a threat. It is a threat for us. And the quality of the competitor's product, if it is the same or even better, then again, there is a threat from such sort of substitutional products. And companies which are operating on large scale, which can probably offer reduced prices after reaching their own break even. After earning higher profits, they probably offer some benefits. So that can also be a threat for existing companies. So these are some of the factors that we are likely to come up with and see for understanding the threats of 5 factors of force, Michael, 5 forces of marketing. Yeah. Here it is. Let's go through this. Porter's 5 forces. Rivalry among existing competitors, number of competitors, diversity of competitors, industry concentration, industrial growth, quality differences, brand loyalty, barriers to exit, switching costs. Okay. This is rivalry among existing competitors, which is at the center of the diagram here. And the bargaining power of suppliers, number and size of suppliers, uniqueness of each supplier's product, focal company's ability to substitute. And substitutional products. Number of substitute products available, buyer propensity to substitute, and relative price performance of substitutes, perceived level of product differentiation, switching costs, bargaining power of the buyers, number of customers, size and each customer, order, differences between competitors, price sensitivity, buyer's ability to substitute, switching costs, and buyer's information available. Threat of new entrants, barriers to entry, economies of scale, brand loyalty, capital requirements, cumulative experience, government policies. So these are some of the things. Do we have any questions on what we have discussed? I want you people to choose one particular company. There's a lot of material available on the net. And do an analysis, SWOT analysis, 5C analysis, then Pascal analysis, and finally, the Porter's 5 forces. For any one particular company or a product, make an attempt to have a better understanding of the tools. We have 2 more such sort of tools that are coming up, probably at a later stage, after we discuss and complete the marketing process. Now we have completed the first part of the marketing process. We would be entering into the second level of the marketing process, which is called the STP, segmentation, targeting, and positioning. Probably in the next class, I'll be dealing with the strategic planning of this STP. Any questions? This may look a little theoretical, but unless we try to make an attempt of understanding a product or a particular organization in this context, you would not be able to appreciate the effect of each of these tools. Okay? So some of the questions that are posed here, like competitors' rivalry, how many competitors do we have? Do we have a solid competitive strategy in place? Do we innovate in order to give the competitive advantage? Do our competitors have more advertising resources? Is there a difference in quality? Are the customers loyal? Similarly, are there many entry barriers? Do you have a customer loyalty? Do you have specialist knowledge that can be used to differentiate? Is there evidence of economies of scale? Is there any government policy in place that encourages or discourages new entrants? Substitution. How many substitute products are there for our product? Is there a perceived level of differentiation? Is there a cost to the buyer for switching, either from our product to others or other product to us? How easy is it for the buyer to switch? Suppliers power. How many suppliers are available to you? And what are the sizes of the suppliers available? What are the costs of switching? What is the strength of our distribution channel? And buyer power, how many buyers do we have? How price sensitive are our buyers? And what information is available about our buyers? And what differentiates us from our competitors? By looking at all these competitive forces individually, we are able to roughly map the focus of the industry and its attractiveness. So it's a good starting point to evaluate an industry before we make a decision, right? So these are some of the factors that we have to consider while we are marketing. These tools would be of great use in coming up with decisions which would help to improve the effectiveness of our activities and our business.
Sir, can we
Yeah.
do this five forces analysis for something like a service sector like Swiggy?
Yes.
For
Yes.
Swiggy, like there are no suppliers and buyers, but there are some promoters and like other things.
Yes. In fact, when we are trying to, why not? Why did you ask this question? What do you have in mind? What's the
Actually,
discussion?
there is nothing like buyer and seller in case of this Swiggy, right?
There is a supplier, there is an intermediary in between, right?
Is there, sir? Actually,
Yeah?
I might not know. Can you elaborate?
No, there is an intermediary who's transporting facility that exists. Somebody who delivers, right?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So there is what is the service that you are trying to address by these five forces? Now focus on what is it that you are trying to forget about Swiggy alone. What is it Swiggy is? What is the business of Swiggy?
Delivery service.
Yeah? Say it again.
Delivery service.
Delivery service. So what is it that happens here? What is the competition for Swiggy?
Other
Why is it
delivery
needed?
service.
No, why is it needed? And what is its network? You place an order with Swiggy or you place an order with the one who makes it
One who makes it through Swiggy.
through Swiggy. So the network that is being created, the service, what is the difference? Are there some other agencies which also does this? Is a question for us. So if who is choosing Swiggy?
We buyers. I mean,
Buyer or the supplier?
sir,
No, if you
repeat
are
the
placing,
question.
who is choosing Swiggy? If Swiggy is a
Seller
transport agency,
and buyer both are both have to choose.
yeah, what are the other agencies that are possible for such shipment of the product?
Delivery partners.
Zomato.
Zomato. So can you place an order with Zomato? I'm not too sure. I have not done this. You have to
Yes,
tell me. So who chooses which restaurant he has to pick up the item from?
the buyer, order placer. The one who places order through Swiggy or Zomato.
And he also defines the place from where it has to be picked up.
Yes.
So it is the service that we are trying to understand and the time of delivery, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
we have to come up with factors that probably, as a customer, what is it that we are worried about? What is our concern about this particular service? Let us try to identify. Firstly, the service that is being expected is shipment. And for this, what are important? What are all the other factors that are important? Let us try to classify them. Can you say a few?
Price of delivery,
Peak.
time in
Yeah.
which it is delivered, time taken to deliver.
Yeah, time taken to deliver from the time it is prepared or ready.
The way it is being delivered, like the quality, like it shouldn't be like distorted or shaken too much. And
Right. It should be hygienic. It should no. There should not be any tampering. Huh?
It should be hot.
yes, sir.
Yeah, naturally, it has to have all that features. So Some of them are prepared by the supplier. Some of them are taken care by his own packing mechanism that he has along with the delivery. So first classify all these items and then come up with what are all the provisions that exist, what are all the competition forces that exist in this particular context. Who can do this? Right?
Yes,
How
sir.
can this be done? If it's not Swiggy or somebody else, Zomato, who else and how can it be done? Is the question that we are trying to face. What is the sort of competition? Are we a big buyer? Are we a small buyer? What is it? So, what is the buyer's, what is the seller's power? How can he dictate? Say, for example, when you get down at Kajipet railway station, there are a line of auto rickshaws, right? You try to get one of them and ask him to take you to the hostels at NIT. How much do they charge you normally from the station?
₹8.
Huh?
Here it takes 20 rupees.
Yeah,
If you take a separate one, it takes 120 or something like that.
yeah. And if the fellow is having no business there, is there a possibility for negotiation?
Pardon, sir?
If the fellow had no business, because of the corona today, there are not many travelers, okay, by the train. It's slowly improving, of course. So the auto rickshaws have not much business at the railway station.
Yes, sir.
So, do you have a possibility of negotiating with him? Earlier, it was only fixed. If you pay him 20, that's how he moves. Today, can you bargain with him?
No, sir.
Hmm?
Chances are slim.
Chances are slim. Depending on circumstances, what are all those circumstances?
There is
When there
another
are
guy
more
who is
number
ready
of
to go,
uh,
then he will
if there
keep
are
reducing.
when there are more number of travelers coming from the station, he would not budge an inch. He would stick to his price, right? If there are not many, and there are a few, only a few, a handful, then probably, and if he has to move out of that place, then whatever he gets, he accepts. Possibility. Okay? So, similarly, situation analysis is based on several factors. Firstly, we have to identify the important factors that we are looking at and then see how can this be controlled. Say, for example, if it is food that is being transported by the Zomato or whoever, if the food licensing authority comes into picture about the quality of food, okay, then how do they perform? If there is a certification that is also given, the preference of the customer, would it change?
Yes, sir.
So there are several factors that we are trying to assess. Somebody who's certified by NBA, somebody who's ranked by NIRF, these have an influence on the decision making of an individual for a purpose that they are looking at. Right? These are all parameters. So for each of these, we are trying to assess. Make an attempt. You will understand what difficulty it is. We'll discuss this. Okay? Any more? Okay, if there are no questions, we'll meet again. Next.